I'm Forde May, and I'm the Managing Director of Forde May Consulting Limited. Prior to that, I worked with ESSO and ICI and Lucas, so I've quite a broad background. I also was a worldwide partner with PA Consulting Group. It's a large international firm, and I ran their operation here in Northern Ireland. Regarding the company, I set Forde May Consulting Limited up some 15 years ago, and we specialise in executive search and selection. That's finding people at senior and high levels. We don't just fill vacancies, but we try very hard to help our clients with making sure anytime someone leaves that they develop their company and they go forward successfully. Well, clearly there's no magic wand, but we believe there really are three main components. And the first one is being absolutely clear on what you're looking for. Some companies, sadly, have a vague idea, and they say they'll recognise people when they meet them. I've had situations where people really weren't clear, even at the interview stage, what they were looking for. So we would strongly recommend that you prepare some sort of job description. It doesn't have to be a long bullet point format, setting out what the job's all about, and then complementing or supplementing that with a person description that sets out the person's background and experience that's needed to fill the job. Having done that, then the next thing is actually to find people, and that means to look for people who've got those required skills. There's a term called competency that's touted around a lot these days, and basically that means we would define a competency as the skills, knowledge, abilities and personal characteristics that enable successful performance. We have a full-time occupational psychologist on our staff, and she helps us with assessing individuals. It's also important, we believe, to have a proper structured interview. Taking up reference is a good help to assessing people, and it's important that there's a good match. The individual obviously has to fit with the job and the company, and vice versa. I think it's important for managers and ambitious individuals who want to develop their career to proactively search the job adverts. It's important to keep abreast of what's happening out there. If you want to restrict your career to Northern Ireland, obviously there are relatively few opportunities, and only by watching what's happening can you get the right one at the right time. The other thing I would strongly suggest you do is to contact and keep friendly with headhunters such as ourselves. Most professional headhunters are keen to have good people on their confidential database, and that can be of great benefit to you in the future. The third thing I would suggest is that you only go after jobs which are suitable. For example, if an employer is looking for an international salesperson selling capital equipment, there's not much point applying for that job if you've never sold overseas or you've never sold capital equipment. The next thing I would suggest, and regarding a tip, is to make sure you customise your CV. It's very important to realise that the purpose of the CV is to sell yourself in paper, and I think it's important that you set out in the CV how you meet the requirements so you'll get that interview. And finally, when you do get the interview, it's important that you're very enthusiastic and keen. We've seen so many people who perhaps have the functional skills and have the knowledge, but they just don't come across well. What we call in the business sparkle, that's what nearly everyone's looking for. And finally, I would wish you good luck in your search. Sadly, in this difficult economic time, a number of people are losing their jobs, and we feel we can help them by career counselling, redundancy counselling. The consultants call it outplacing, but I think it's a very inappropriate term. People have to get over the initial shock of losing their job, but at least today there's no real stigma, but there's a big hit in the financial situation. I think it's important that when people do lose their job, they draw a breath and decide what they would like to do. There may not be the ideal opportunity, but it's important to aim where you want to go. Then I think you should actively and proactively look for jobs. It may be worth getting some help in terms of CV preparation. I think the other area where a lot of people need help is actually interview assistance. We deal with a lot of senior managers who are very good when they're doing the interviewing, but you try putting them on the other side of the table and they seem to fall apart. They don't sell themselves, they don't explain themselves, they don't listen to and watch the body language of those interviewing them. Should they go into more detail? Should they go into less detail on their answers? And people, there's no doubt, if they're well coached with interview technique, it will help them. So I think you've got to do these things proactively. Don't be discouraged because there are not a lot of jobs out there, but those who keep trying and who are persistent and who are tenacious will win through in the end. I've mentioned some ways of improving your chances of getting a new job, but the whole area of redundancy is one where people need help. We do have our occupation psychologist, they call them management psychologists these days, and she can help people with some of the trauma that they find when they're redundant. We can, as part of our redundancy counselling, we can help people see the way through the minefield of finding a new job, keeping their spirits up, having a structured way of tackling things. We've been using the executive section for some time and we found it very, very successful. It's a clearly set out site. The jobs are easy to find, it's easy to apply, it's nice and crisp and clean, and I would recommend it to you.